So exactly. It all sounds great till you realize, oh my God, we got 8 teams ahead of us that are on the schedule. They're all ranked as well. And no doubt one of those teams is going to be Josh Heupel's Tennessee program, given how hot they got at the end of the season. I know they didn't win their bowl game like South Carolina did, but arguably, if you're a Tennessee fan, you could say they did win it because they were kind of robbed there at the end. But moving on from that, I mean, Tennessee fans, that's long in their rearview window because they got Hendon Hooker back, Cedric Tillman back, just signed a 5-star quarterback. I mean, the future is bright in Tennessee, no doubt. And much like the South Carolina Gamecocks, Tennessee being bolstered in a big, big way in the depth department this spring with 14 early enrollees returning to the program. Tennessee, they've tried to dabble a little bit in the transfer portal, not quite as successful as the Gamecocks, at least not yet. I look for Tennessee to continue to add to their roster, particularly in the defensive backfield, and they're dying to get an offensive tackle, but so is about everybody in college football. When there's an offensive tackle in the transfer portal, hell, we had a guy here from Vanderbilt. His name escapes me for the moment, but he jumped in the portal, and LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, damn near everybody in the country is after this guy. And last I checked, Vanderbilt, pretty terrible offensive line. Not calling this guy out because I'm sure he would be an upgrade, but that's just the state of offensive line play in the country right now. There's just not a ton of teams that are producing those players at an elite level, particularly at the offensive tackle position. And Tennessee's right there with it. With after Josh Heupel came in, Wanya Morris transferred out, and now they're still looking to replace. They're still Jameer Johnson also transferred out. That has been a hole on this offensive line, and it continues to be. So that is a huge area of concern. I know they bringing in, among the 14 early enrollees, Addison Nichols, 4-star signee, but may not be too realistic to have a freshman come in and win a job at offensive tackle year one. So we'll have to see how that goes. But much like Shane Beamer, that is something Josh Heupel addressed during his first press conference of the spring here on Tuesday. How do things compare this year on Rocky Top compared to last year? And you got to remember, I know we all have a short-term memory. It's hard to remember what happened a year ago. But this time last year, everybody and their mother saying Tennessee, they're going to get bowl sanctions. They're going to get devastated by the NCAA. There was one analyst over there at CBS said Tennessee will not make a bowl game for 5 years, given all the defections they had, losing guys to Alabama, losing guys to Michigan State, losing guys to Oklahoma. This roster was rated, and this looked like a paper-thin roster, which for a large part it was. That's why these 14 early enrollees are so huge to add depth to this roster this spring in Knoxville. Going from that situation to, again, you're bringing back Hendon Hooker, possible Heisman candidate, bringing back Cedric Tillman, arguably the most productive receiver returning in the SEC. You're killing it on the recruiting trail right now. I mean, they've done a 180 in a 12-month span. So here's Josh Heupel on how different things are this spring on Rocky Top.
Josh, there was quite a bit of craziness getting into spring football last year. Just how different is it this year getting into spring football, and how much easier is it to simply focus on football these next 2 months or so?
Yeah, for us, almost all of our staff back, old and young staff, familiarity, you're able to reflect, grow on those things, a lot of understanding of who we are, how we're going to function, how we want to operate. Kids are able to focus on, the details of what we're asking them to do. Coaching staff's in sync and on the same page, and should help us, propel us for a great amount of growth here. A difference in year one and year two is just light years of difference. There's so much familiarity and understanding in what we're doing, coaches and players alike.
Now, I hit on the fact, Hendon Hooker, we all know how good he was last year. Cedric Tillman, the same, really caught fire. And Tillman was able to do it against Alabama, Georgia, and in the bowl game particularly. I mean, my God, I believe he had 3 touchdowns in the first half. Guy was on fire. Both of these guys could have left school, went to the NFL. But I also think it's fair to say, they're probably not looking at very high draft selections had they went, and that's why they're coming back. They're coming back to improve that stock. They have got something to prove to NFL evaluators, and according to Josh Heupel, these players have taken it seriously this offseason to come back to improve their stock and progress their game in his system. So let's kick it over to Josh Heupel on arguably the two most important players on his team this season.
Josh, you kind of even go back to last season with Hinton and with Cedric. You've talked about how much better they can get. Obviously, they had a lot of success last season. What kind of edge or what kind of difference maybe have you seen with those guys this offseason as they sort of build off that and try to maximize what they have?
Yeah, I think for both of them, it's different this year than it was a year ago in that they're comfortable and confident in who they are as a player, and have great understanding of ways that they need to improve and want to improve. They have a great voice inside of the team room, inside of their position units. I think they understand that now, and so the leadership and ownership from within is completely different too. For them to continue to improve, and as you improve, that doesn't mean statistically your numbers are going to be dramatically different either, right? It's about becoming and maximizing who you are and your potential as a football player. Both of those guys have done a great job in the first 7 weeks of our offseason, our first quarter, of having very purposeful work every single day. They've made great strides in understanding, not just on the strength and conditioning side, but understanding the pure fundamentals of the positions that they're playing and how they can incrementally get better. Being able to reflect back on a year's worth of work, and as we move forward, just their intentionality today, I thought was really good. Their voice and their leadership was really strong too. They're only going to continue to improve in those things.
And then finally, I went ad nauseum there about the newcomers there that Tennessee has got. According to Josh Heupel, it's only been 1 day of camp here, but these newcomers have come in ready to compete. He says offense, defense, and special teams. So, early signs are this is a group that is going to be able to compete year one, and Tennessee is going to need a lot of these guys ready to go by the time the fall rolls around if Tennessee is truly going to take that next step on the field.
Josh, obviously a lot of newcomers across the board, freshmen, transfers.
Yeah.
Who have you seen emerge from a leadership standpoint from those guys this offseason and maybe even today?
I think it'd be really hard and almost unfair for that group to start singling out single individuals as far as leadership. A ton of new guys. I think it's 14 guys. Man, I'll tell you, for new guys coming into the building, they are as mature and have handled themselves from day one about as well as any group that I've ever been around. Done a great job of competing. They've done a great job of helping each other out. They have a really good understanding of what we're doing. I'm really proud of what they were able to do today, blending into what we're doing, offense, defense, and special teams. It shows the purpose in which they worked here leading up to today, and it's a group that we feel physically, their talent, who they are, got a chance to grow and develop here during spring ball, but have great off seasons and put themselves in a position to compete during training camp and earn playing time.
So again, the positive train here, Columbia, Knoxville. I mean, these are two fan bases, two programs, eager to win, tired of being a laughing stock. Both of them turned the ship around last season. And, man, we're talking a competitive East because they're saying the same things in Gainesville. They're ready to be relevant again. Kentucky, I continue to say it. This could be the best team of the Mark Stoops era. And then, let's not forget the defending national champions in the division. We just saw Missouri, explosive players all across the board there in Columbia. This SEC East is going to be a damn gauntlet. Probably not up to the caliber of the SEC West just yet, but, between 2 and 4, 2 and 5 in that division, we're really splitting hairs at this point in time, and you can make a case for either one of these teams, not only finishing second in the East. If they put together, all the pieces come together and an upset or two happens, you could talk me into Tennessee or South Carolina winning the East next season. So this is going to be a debate all off season long. And, I cannot wait to see how it shapes out here in the SEC East.